Winery on the high plains of Gasconade County. 45 cloudy degrees here at airtime, and we got some clouds sitting around today. A pretty good shower of rain last night. It came through about 10 or 11, just it kind of wished on through here, and but dropped a fair amount. I don't know how much, but I know that it made things muddy yesterday morning. But all the air, Gracie, that was disturbing yesterday, it dried things out quite a bit. The wind kind of blew from all day, didn't it?
I think it will continue today too.
I think you're probably right. So I don't know if Sam's predicting any rain for today, but it is that time of the year when you get into April showers, bring May flowers, right?
I hope so.
Also brings the end of the school year, which you know, our guest, I know she loves their job because I see her working at it all the time. But still, it's kind of nice to have that end of school and watch your kiddos go out, and then for you to get maybe you know, at least a little bit of evening rest sometimes, huh?
Yes, we're right in the middle of spring sports, so that keeps us busy right now, but we have 7 weeks left for the school year, which is really odd. It seems like we just started back yesterday from...
Dr. Hardy, just so you know, it does go quicker. You know what I'm saying?
It definitely does. We, you know, started the year under new COVID guidelines and restrictions and thinking we were almost over COVID, and then that kind of slapped us in the face in August. And at the end of the year, those restrictions have now loosened, and so what you're getting to see that we've not seen in the last 2 years, middle school had a spring
and everybody's
dance.
Faces.
Yes, everyone's faces. That's a good thing to see. But middle school got to have a spring dance for some of those kids because they hadn't been able to experience that. Field trips are
Barn warming the other night.
Barn warming the other night, and that was very well attended. So you're seeing a little bit more, I'm afraid to say it, but normalcy out of our kids and interaction with kids. You know, we're not having to separate them at recess and things of that nature. And so we're not back to normal, but we're almost back to normal. So that's a great thing for our students.
It is a great thing, Dr. Hardy, and just thinking about the whole processes and the whole the amount of events that you went through the last actually 2.5 years, I guess, has been pretty dramatic on everybody and everything, but maybe we are seeing some normalcy here, and hopefully we can keep it at bay and do what we need to do to you know, enjoy our life and do whatever, and not be afraid, you know what I'm saying, to go out and you know, enjoy things, but a note of caution if you know, and you know, if you're got health issues, it's still important to make I think, to keep your booster shots up, listen to your doctor's advice, and do what you need to do.
Absolutely. If you're not feeling well, we still say stay home. We're probably some of the worst people, teachers are, as trying to give it the old college try and work through it if you're not feeling well. And that's been probably one of the biggest changes that we have had to make in our way of thinking is if our teachers aren't feeling well, they need to stay home. If, you know, any of our faculty, staff, bus drivers, any of us, if you're not feeling well, stay home. And that's been a big kind of change of the way that we normally think.
But you know, I would think that to some degree, after a teacher has been there a while, and you know, especially on the younger grades, you've got to have super immune systems to begin with, because you know, it's just, you're exposed to everything all the time, continually. So You got to have super antibodies in you.
Absolutely, and it's really interesting to watch when you say that. Even going back pre-COVID, we would tell teachers as they come into the district, if they were new teachers, or even if they come from other areas, that you may have more illness your first year because you're developing those immunities and the antibodies, and then their second year they don't have all of the illnesses because they have developed some of those antibodies. And it's, you know, even now you still see that with teachers coming in and staff members coming in if they've never worked in a school setting with all the little ones and all the different populations we deal with. So.
Yeah, it's an incubator. There's in every reason, in every connotation. There's no question about it. Well, Dr. Hardy, it's good to have you here, and you know, we've been wanting to get together for the past month or 6 weeks or so and talk about a very important issue to Gasconade County, our two school districts, and that is in regard to the school formula. And you know, there's so much here, but I think it'd be helpful if we go through a little bit of what the school formula is and a little bit even on how education is funded. You know, I mean, it's pretty abstract when you look at it and you don't delve into it. But you know, the local people through their tax, and they see this. I mean, they pay a huge part of the education process, but the state also helps, you know, come with a formula, and that formula is what we're talking about, and that's pretty complex because, for instance, if you live in the Ladue School District, you know, or you live in you know, north central Missouri, there is a lot of difference in regard to the assessed valuation that is behind each kid.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, it is huge, and since that is, you know, part of, and a big part of the pie that makes up a child's education, the state plays a big part and a big function to try to equalize, you know what I'm saying, to some degree. And it's not only the assessed valuation and the state trying to supplement those particular areas, there's also a big difference in teachers' pay and the cost of living in those, you know, particular areas. So those things have to be, they are considered, you know what I'm saying, in the makeup of the state formula to get some equality, you know what I'm saying, back to on a per student basis, to, I guess, play God, you know what I'm saying, right, for some degree, on what the real needs of the students are in regard to the monetary dollars that is apportioned to each child. So it is not an uncomplicated thing. And what I used to use all the time was, you know, think about the nuclear plant, because that assessed valuation, and assessed valuation is not only on that building footprint, it, to some degree, when you get to that level, it's also on the economic impact, you know what I'm saying, that they are taxed on.
Yes.
So that Callaway district is rich, you know what I'm saying, because they got all of this local you know, assessed valuation, and that's no different than the Chrysler plant that used to be there or anything else. But I think the big people, one of the big things people need to understand on the baseline is that, let's look at the Chrysler plant. While that brings, and it's not there no more, but whatever, that brought in huge amount of revenue, you know what I'm saying, for the Fenton area, you know, and that area there. But guess what? 70% of the workforce, or an awful lot of the workforce, come from the rural areas supporting that. So some way, somehow, you know, in an equal world, some of that dollars need to come back, correct?
Correct.
To support those kids,
yes,
you know, that or working in a different in a different economic environment to come back to do it. That's what the school formula tries to do.
Exactly.
Am I correct?
You are correct. And what
I passed that test.
You did good. You passed the test. And the difference with Gasconade County versus other counties is we actually operate a building in Franklin County, which is considered a micropolitan area. It costs more to operate those buildings based on tax base and things like that. Well, they receive a higher dollar value modifier in Franklin County. Their dollar value modifier is 1.09, where the Gasconade County dollar value modifier, because we're not considered micropolitan, is 1.0. However, our district does operate a building in Franklin County, so we are trying to claim that higher dollar value modifier. And right now that has actually been it's on House Bill 2493, which is a bipartisan bill, and they should be looking at that, I think, next week. And it's already been read 3 times, but we have a bill in both the House and the Senate. Senate bill is 818. And so we're really hoping to get that passed, because when you talked about teacher pay and things of that nature, as you know, with a bond issue, we can only buy buildings, books, and buses, is the 3 Bs. We can't pay teacher salaries with bond money. However, with the money from the dollar value modifier, that would put over $1 million a year in the school's budget every year. And with that, we could help with teacher salaries and staff salaries to make us more competitive with districts that can pay more for their teachers. So the dollar value modifier, if it passes, will be huge for the faculty and staff members in our district.
It will be huge. I mean, and if everything's equal, the numbers you kind of laid out there, it's almost a 10% increase, correct?
Absolutely, yes.
It's almost a 10% increase in in state help. You know what I'm saying, to the school district, and you know it will go a long way to even make our school district better, because I mean. And I'm not sure what our base pay is, you know what I'm saying, on teachers at this juncture here. And you know what? I'm not so sure that base pay is the most important factor. You know, and don't misunderstand me. It is important, yes. Dr. Hardy. I mean, where you start is tremendously important. But it's kind of like, to some degree, when we have kids coming in here, you know, from the school that work, you got to start off at a minimal wage to find out what value and how good these are going to be, because every teacher is going to be different to some degree, every kid is going to be different. But it is extremely important for the school district to have the resources to be competitive once they have found the right people, yes, to fill those particular positions, and find the teachers that are properly motivated. And I'm not trying to single anything out, but you know what I'm saying.
Right, and those steps, you know, on the salary schedule, when you look at the steps, those are important, because you award steps for their years of service, but also for their degrees in education. Did you get a bachelor's degree? Did you take hours beyond your bachelor's? Did you get a master's? And so we need to reward those people for their longevity, and then also for their education, because they have spent that money out of pocket to gain a higher degree. And so with that dollar value modifier, like you said, it's not necessarily looking at the base, it's looking at the big picture and looking at those salary schedules for that. Also for our custodians and cooks and bus drivers, how long have they been there, and can we raise the wage to compete with local establishments that pay minimum wage? Because a government entity, and I don't know if people realize, they're not bound by the minimum wage laws, but because with it being a government entity, that they are not. But we do try to we have to be competitive.
Well, you have to be competitive. So. But you know, there's you know, the salary, the wage rate isn't everything. You know what I'm saying? The benefits, you know what I'm saying, and some of those things are really very credible. You know what I'm saying? When you evaluate life, across the board, you evaluate lifestyles and those particular things. Other than the 9 months that the teachers are working, they got a pretty good schedule. And don't misunderstand what I'm saying here. I do know that they work incredibly hard, and they put a lot of extra hours in. Your teachers do. They care and they need to be paid. But it is a wonderful lifestyle.
It is a wonderful.
If you can afford it.
Yes.
To be off with your kids, to watch your kids, to be in that, each and every day, to have, some downtime in the summers, to have the weekends free, to, those, and to be able to accrue retirement, you know what I'm saying, at a reasonable rate. So there are a lot of other benefits, but the bottom line of it is you have to be competitive in the salary situation to have people to be able to afford to do it.
Absolutely. And, one thing that you mentioned were, the teachers do. They work until their jobs are done, and they're there every day for our biggest asset, and that's the children, because they're going to be taking care of us someday when we're in the nursing home or wherever we are when we get older. But our teachers and our faculty and staff members, and I even when I talk the custodians and bus drivers, they are just as important in the lives of our children, and to make sure that they're safe. And that is something that I think that we do really well at Gasconade County, is we make sure that we keep kids at the center and that we want them to be safe, and they'll feel comfortable if they need to disclose something to a bus driver or custodians, to know that we're going to make sure that they remain safe, and we're going to take the proper steps to ensure the safety of our children. But sometimes in the summer, just like, some of our teachers, they have to attend professional development with that. We do provide a stipend, but something that with ESSER money that has come along is like recruitment retention. And in the nation, there is a teacher shortage, which we have spoken about, but in the state, I think there is a 12% turnover rate per year for teachers. Last year in our district, we had 11.8%, so we were right along
Average
with the state level. That's a large percentage of teachers. It really is. And this year we've not seen as many, but we have had some teacher turnover, and some of them are getting out of the profession. Some of them are moving back homes. We have a couple of retirees, but most of our staff members we have a younger population as far as certified staff members. The population of retirement age they seem to have retired, and we don't have as many on that upper level as what we've had in years past.
Well, and it is it's a stressful job, and when teachers are there and they're working a whole lot of hours and have families of their own, a lot of them, to raise, and you have all the normal stresses there, plus dealing with those kids, and a lot of times, I shouldn't say it, but a lot of times a lot of the stress comes from parents, to some degree, trying to micromanage maybe their kids or whatever, and they're concerned. Yes. Don't misunderstand it. They are concerned about it, but there's a lot of, right now there's more political connotations going on in the school and the school boards and the schools as there is in Jeff City or Washington, D.C. and it's not what we would pray for, you know, but it is there, and it's evident, and it puts a lot of stress on the teachers.
Absolutely, and a lot of times, what people don't realize is when you said the political realm, education used to be a place that politics did not play as big of a role. It played a role, but not a major portion of that. This year, it's almost as if there are some harmful bills that are being proposed in Jefferson City, and then there are some bills that may not be the best for education, or may not be the best for some communities. But there are some good bills also. So we have that mixture, but teachers have not ever had to, or they didn't spend as much time worrying about what those effects would be, just like there are bills for reading plans, reading laws. Well, we already have some of those in place. Well, now there's another bill out there to implement another reading law. Anytime that happens, our teachers have to shift gears and rethink things. And then we have state mandates that come down from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, where a lot of times when we grew up and we were in school, teachers could teach pretty well what they wanted to teach, and it was all about the fun. Well, now with MSIP 6, and it wasn't all about the fun, it was about the learning, but with MSIP 6, you can't just go pull a cute lesson, and you have to make sure that it is evidence-based, and you have the support to prove that what you're teaching to students is evidence-based. And we're already operating under MSIP 6, so that's not legislation that is being proposed. That's something that's already here. Then when you look at MSIP 6 is our state accreditation system. And then when you look at MAP and EOCs, I know this is the time of year that students are already taking these MAP and EOCs, but one thing that MSIP 6 allows for is if you're a pilot school, and you'll be notified of that, you get 70% of your academic accreditation points from MAP and EOC assessments. However, pilot schools also get to count 30% on student growth, meaning how much did they grow from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. If you're not a pilot school, all 100% of your points come from your MAP and EOC testing. It's not looking at student growth. So what could happen there is some schools may have to write some plans to DESE and things like that, because their percentage points, they're not on an equitable field because they're trying to pilot these programs. There's a lot of other things with the new MSIP 6 that schools are required to do and keep data on, and we're not really sure what tools they're going to use at this time. They're still collecting those. But MSIP 6 is, at first in the fall, we were told we were being accredited on MSIP 5, which was our current accreditation system. And then they would look at MSIP 6, and then this year in January they told us, no, we're just going to use MSIP 6. So, you know, that's a struggle for teachers, and to have the accreditation piece always looming over you in the back of your mind. And sometimes that target doesn't stay the same from year to year, or from one MSIP process to the next MSIP process.
You know, and if it's confusing, you know what I'm saying, to say the least, for the parents to have, you know, grasp on to a lot of these particular standards and what they are and how they are, you know, put together. And there's controversy in every particular thing. I mean, if you go back to when I was in school, and if you would look at reading The Catcher in the Rye, yes. You know, I mean, if you want to pull that book apart, you know, you can. Yes. You know, and, you know, the exposure and, you know, critical race theory, you know, has, in my opinion, has no place. You know what
Absolutely
I'm saying? Not. In our district, in our state, at all, it is, it's something that I don't even know that is there, you know, and you know, but just the fear of that, you know what I'm saying, has brought into arms, you know, many people, and rightfully so, in my opinion, because changing the course of history, at this juncture is not what we are and what we should be doing. I mean, history is what it is, and we need to celebrate, the history for where we are and the strides that we have made forward. You know what I'm saying in regard to a lot of history is not good.
Right.
There's no question about it at all. But it is part of America, and we need to teach it.
Yes, and we in our district, we make sure that we are not teaching critical race theory, as that was designed for a graduate course at the college level. It's not designed for elementary schools, middle schools, or high schools. This is something that should be taught at a college level as an elective course. So with that, we make sure the assistant superintendent is over curriculum instruction and assessment, and when we adopt new resources that are board approved, she goes through those resources to make sure that there are no underlying connotations for critical race theory. And then we also go back to the companies of these resources, and we have a written assurance from them to make sure that we are not putting critical race theory into our educational resources for our students. And so we are very careful in our district, as everyone should be, to make sure that that's not being taught to our children.
Yeah, there's no question, and the main element of defense there is your school board, and we just had an election, so if you want to do your due diligence, ask the people on the school board.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And what's being done, and they're engaged. They understand all of these particular things, and they too have to spend an incredible lot of time, studying. I bet they get a book this thick about every month, don't they?
Every month.
I don't know, but
the only thing now is it's all electronic. But they have to spend a lot of their time. And, one thing about school boards they're not a paid position. And so we have an amazing board at Gascony County R2, and I'm very thankful for the board that we have, because as a superintendent, you hear some horror stories from some districts that their boards maybe, not agree on a lot of decisions if they're making decisions based around politics or things like that. And we have a board that I can assure you, they make decisions based on what's best for kids and what's best for the staff members in our district. And if you go around our facilities, you can see some of those decisions, but also we have a community that supports our district, and they support the board. And it's very important that we have those board members that understand and that are very diligent about making sure that they're doing what's best for the kids of the district.
We want to inform the people in regard to the state modified
dollar value modifier.
There you go. And make sure that you call and let your senator and our representative and know about the importance of that to Gascony County R2 students, and a lot of those students are in Franklin County.
Yes.
It's a big chunk that is over in that area, and some of those even are in independent school districts where they can choose to come to Gascony County High School, if they so choose. So it is an important issue to bring those dollars back for the kids in all of our area, because like you said, it's almost $1 million.
Yes, and we have about 35% of students that are coming from Franklin County.
Is that what it is?
Yes.
That's a big chunk.
That is a big chunk.
And speaking of a big chunk, I mean, the other part of that is we have one of the largest school districts in the state of Missouri, and certainly you have noticed the gas. Have you noticed the gas has went up at all?
Just a little bit. I filled my tank up this morning, and we actually cover 354 square miles a day. We have 38 buses, and at one of the superintendent's conferences that I attended, I had sat next to a lady from the city, and they were talking about transportation, and the superintendent looked at me, she said, so is this a big deal? And I said, well, we have 38 buses that we run 354 square miles a day. I said, how many buses do you have? She said, 0. And to me, I can't even begin to wrap my mind around that, because we run 38 buses a day that are full of students, and we transport over 1,200 students per day on school transportation. So it's very important that, and transportation's not fully funded. So when you look at that, we always say,
Never.
you know, our pie is only so big, and with gas prices being what they are, that's
I don't even
definitely
want to
something
put
we
math to that, but you know, I know that their gas tanks are probably between 30 and 50 gallon,
Yes.
at least that they hold. And you know, you start, you know, taking that times, you know, $4 a gallon, you know.
And tires.
I know everything. But you know, just during a week's time, you know, that is tens of thousands of dollars in gas alone. Drivers and everything else that goes along with that transportation element that is in the school budget and what they have to
Absolutely.
do. So it's huge.
It is. It's a big chunk of our funding, and
Yeah.
we do. That's not something that we can. Oh, we're just not going to do that. No, we have to get kids to school, and so that comes out of your operating budgets. You know, where the shortfalls come in from the transportation funding.
So while we can't sit here and say that if we get those $1 million, every teacher is going to get X, Y, Z, but it will help the district, you know, and it will help our pay to be
Absolutely.
more competitive. There's no question about it, because we do need to take care of that. And you know, we talked about you know, the other issues in regard to what you got working at the school right now. There's a study group being put forward, and get to be part of that in regard to looking at long-term needs for the school district and what we're going to need in the years ahead. And I always kind of been on the last one or two that we've had. It's interesting to see you know, the changes in the school district and how much we have improved in a lot of areas, but also you know, guess what? There's always a lot of maintenance, you know, and a lot of work to be done as we move forward, and new needs to be assessed. You know, what the current need is. So this steering committee has their work cut out for them.
They do have their work cut out. We're very thankful. We have several community members that serve on the Long Range Facility Planning Committee with us. We met Monday. We toured the high school and middle school. We'll meet next month, and we'll start with Gerald Elementary, and we hope to get to Owensville Elementary, depending on how much time we have in those tours and how much time that everyone has that they're volunteering. If not, we will meet in June, but we always have to look at, like you said, what are the changing needs of the district, whether that be in technology, facilities, improvements that we need around, just to make sure that we are keeping our facilities up to date with the changing times to meet the needs of kids.
Yeah, and it does change. Technology is changing tremendously, and you know, the last initiative, I don't remember even how many years ago it's been, but you know, it zeroed in on some efficiencies that needed to be, some classrooms at that time needed to be modified or changed or put on. You know, but a lot of that was for technology. You know, at that point, that new computers and new science lab, or science labs.
Science
right?
labs, STEAM labs, science, technology, engineering, arts and math. That was a big component of that. I think that was 2015 that all of those projects started. And now, as you know, walking around, there are upgrades that need to be made to current machines that we have for students. If we're looking at going into like a career technical field, and some of our students who are choosing not to go to college that are in VOAG classes, and wood making and woodworking, and some of those courses, you know, we need to look at some of those, because the pandemic taught us all there were some pretty important technical skills that those people had to work all throughout the pandemic, but there's also a shortage in that field.
You know, one of the things that struck me on the way home was, you know, our conversation that we had in regard to the lockers. You know, I mean, I just sat there and thought, my God, how, you know, because, you know, the discussion was, well, you know, basically, how many of our lockers are really being used? You didn't see hardly any locks on the lockers, but I never locked my locker. You know what I'm saying? It was in there. God, pray that they'd take my homework home. And they did a lot of times.
And bring it back home.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of times it just disappeared. I don't know. But anyway, but you know, I don't know, a half or less than half of the students use a locker at all. So you got all this space there that was a critical part when we grew up, because you know, you had someplace you didn't have to carry every book home, you know, even though I did. Just so you know, I mean, I wouldn't want to put that in the safety of anybody else. So, you know, you wouldn't carry every book home, but you'd walk 3 miles uphill to the bus, you know, and then back, you know. But anyway, it has changed tremendously. And it just already exemplified what technology has, because, you know, you can get all of your homework right there.
Yes, absolutely.
You know,
It's
right there on that little bitty thing, and you know, and that just since what you say 2015, in them 7 or 8 years that this has changed, that technology has changed tremendously. You don't necessarily need a big lab, you know what I'm
Right.
saying, to some degrees, to have everybody's computer, when that's it right there.
Right.
That thing has more capability than Grace will ever teach me.
And it does, and we are one-to-one, which means that every one of our students have a device. And, you know, at first you think, well, those are kind of heavy. Well, it beats carrying around 7 biology textbooks, or, you know, your biology and your ELA if you're at the high school. Those textbooks are pretty thick, and now they're all available right there on your Chromebook. We still buy textbooks.
Of course.
Because sometimes kids need those,
Well,
or
have
would
to,
like to have those, and but
Well,
we-
you
we
do.
still
I
have
think you do
classroom
need them.
sets.
You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Because it. I mean, my eyes. I'm sure kids are different, but you know, it's just pretty nice to sit and open a book and use
Yes.
the old method of even underlining those things or highlighting and doing those kind of things that still old school, still you know, is a good way to learn. You
Yes.
know, and then I don't know. I'd still have to use that method, because, you know, marking something on them and then trying to find that back, it wouldn't work for me, you know. So, you know, you have a lot going on at school, as always, and 7 weeks left, you said.
7 weeks.
Not that you're counting the days, but,
No.
you know, that is, it's getting close, and you got a new batch of seniors ready to go out into the world. We've got numerous of those here, and very impressive of, you know, what they do and how capable, you know, that they are. I mean, they are very, very, very important to us. We've got 4 or 5 boys here that cook 90% of our food, you know, and girls are to think about that. You know?
Right.
And they do a great job frying our chicken and, you know, doing our steaks. I mean, you know, they don't do the vegetables and all the other kitchen work, but they work the grills, and, you know, it takes an awful lot of attention to detail to be able to cook steaks as they do on an open flame with
Yes.
no set thing. They got to read all of those things, as well as frying chicken in a pan. And it takes a certain skill set to be able to do that, and it certainly takes an awful lot of aptitude when you got, 30 orders come in, you know what I'm saying, and you got to do how many medium rare steaks and whatever,
Trying to
and
get it all right.
try to get it all right. And sometimes we don't, but the kids do a remarkable job. You're doing what they're doing, and I'm dang proud of them, because for them to be part of our model and what we do. The printing company was here last night. They had a meeting, and we host some of those events, and they had executives from Lynn and here, I don't know, 20, 25, whatever there was here. But we talked exactly about the young kids, you know what I'm saying, and before they got into their discussion, how important they are, and they were looking so forward to school being out so they could hire these kids, to come and help them with their labor, and they're doing exactly kind of the same thing that we do. If those kids then go on to college, they've got an open door to come back there during holidays, during
Absolutely.
time off, during the summer, and it's easy to pay them a very competitive wage.
Yes.
When they're in that kind of particular situation, because you don't have to retrain them that much, and you already know, you've already put the expenses of training those and evaluating them, you know what I'm saying, for this certain skill set, so they're highly valued, and they can do it, and they do an incredible amount of work.
They do, and we have students, like you said, you've got them working here for you now. We have some that work at the printing company once they become age appropriate, and then we also have some students who work for us in the district, and if once they're age appropriate there also, and we can put some students if they're wanting or willing to work, and they're hard workers. We have some really hard workers.
That we do too, and you can tell pretty well immediately, you know what I'm saying, on what time they get to work and if they're ready to go, and if they're going to do that, then half of your job is done. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Those that have the discipline and the structure are ready to be there when they're supposed to be there, and if not, we have to work with them, you know what I'm saying, to make them understand what, how important that is, and how credible, and how much we plan on them. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because it's impossible to run a business if you don't have any concrete structure on what they're going to do when they get there, or if they're going to show up.
Right.
So that's just like teaching, I guess, isn't it?
It is.
And I'm probably a little harder on them,
You probably are.
Jerry, than you. But I tell my boys that that's the way I treat them. I treat them like my own, and that's really being a pushover, ain't it, Grace?
I don't know about that.
Well, it's good to have Jerry Hardy here, Dr. Hardy, and we are talking about school and the great kids and our great district, and we're going to take a little break here on KTUI 1560 AM 94.1 FM or Facebook Live, and see what Grace has for us this weekend coming up. Grace,
Yep.
What's going on in our neck of the woods this weekend?
The Owensville Lions Club is having a drive-through or dine-in shrimp and fish fry Friday, April 15th from 4 until 7 p.m. and that's at the Owensville Lions Hall. The Owensville Moose Lodge is having a fried chicken dinner Saturday, April 9th from 4 until 8 p.m. A 2-piece plate is $9 and a 3-piece plate is $10, dine-in or takeout. Proceeds will go to the Moose Lodge. And then here at the White Mule, we will be serving steak, catfish, shrimp, and beef kebabs this Friday from 5 until 8:30. Saturday, we will have pizza, wings, and hamburgers available from noon until 5, and then steaks after that. And Sunday is all you can eat, pan-fried chicken and roast beef from 11 until 3:30.
So there you go. We got a Friday night choice here of fish, if you're so inclined, catfish. And only 2 more weeks
Week and a half.
of Lent, you know. So you know, that's you know, get out and support your local churches first of all, and you know, make sure that you know, they are taken care of and eating there, and it's coming. Easter is late this year, so you know, that you know, makes a difference. There's no question about it all. So make your plans now for this weekend. I think it's going to be nice. At least the grass is growing, and you know, Gracie's going to get the cut now every week for a while.
Getting close.
Just so you know.
And on the 16th, we do have an adult Easter egg hunt here as well. So
On the 16th of...
on April 16th.
April 16th.
Yep, Saturday before Easter.
So what are we doing with that? Who's hiding the eggs?
You are.
And what's it? Yeah. I hide the eggs, you know.
No, I don't know. I think I don't know how many eggs, but I think 100 of them will have prizes in them, and then 100 of them will have candy in them, and there is one golden egg with a special prize.
What is that special prize?
I can't say.
How you gonna promote? You're just
It's
gonna
a
make sure
surprise.
that the people know that
It's a good surprise, yes.
It's a good surprise. Okay.
And you don't have to make reservations, just show up, and
What time is that gonna be?
the hunt will start at 4.
So 4 o'clock on Saturday?
4 o'clock on Saturday, and then you're welcome to stay for dinner afterwards as well.
They're gonna hunt these eggs, and maybe some of those eggs will have food in them.
Yes, maybe. Maybe some food and wine and...
Oh, that's okay. All right. Well, happy hunting.
Happy hunting.
You know, so that's good. I think we did that
A couple years
a few
ago.
years back,
Yeah.
and it was a lot of fun. So, you know, that's good. Well, Dr. Hardy, it's always good to have you. We're coming to the end of the school year, so that means a lot of track activity. That means a lot of baseball activities in the evening. So that keeps everybody in the flow of things.
Absolutely. Yesterday there were all kinds of activities going on, but on Tuesday we had our Owensville track meet, and our students did pretty good. Our boys ended up first place. Our girls ended up placing second. We have a freshman ball game today. We have the Dixon tournament for soccer this weekend. Last weekend was the pentathlon in Washington. We also had our spring play. I don't know if anyone had a chance to see that, but it was a tragedy. It was called Game of Tiaras, and so that was really fun. FFA contests are underway.
The story was about a tragedy.
Yes,
It was.
The play was not. The play was a great hit, but it was a tragedy based on some characters that were like Disney princesses. So, not to say they were, but no, it was actually a great production. Those kids do an amazing job. Miss Gonzalez does a really good job with our theater students, and they're very welcoming, and those kids take what
Very
they're
animated,
seriously.
of course.
Very animated. If one thing that you may have noticed that if you went this year was the small gym does have air conditioning now, and so we were able to have air conditioning in the small gym. And those days there was one day that was a little bit warmer, so it was nice to have that. And
Sure.
it's very quiet. It's not real loud, so it doesn't mess with the acoustics in the
Acoustics are-
small gym, which
yeah.
is where our plays are held. So that was really interesting. And then also, we have Springfest where the kids go around and do the maypole.
Right.
And that's going to be April 22nd at OES, and they have a first grade choir concert tonight. So we have a lot of activities going on at the campus.
Do you remember, or did you? I know the boys did. Did you do the Mayflower?
So
What grade was
I
that?
went 4th.
Third or fourth, they've done both.
I think it was 4th, but I did practice for it, but I broke my arm right before we had to do it, so I could not do the maypole.
You couldn't get the cast up
I
and
guess
over
not.
that, you know?
No.
Well, you know, speaking of the 4th graders, we are going to be hosting the Farm Day, you know what I'm saying, out
Yes.
here in, I think, October, if I remember right.
Yes, usually it's October.
So that'll be a great day, and I've been talking with the Conservation Department, and they are going to you know, we have the lake right out here, and it's a good fishing hole to begin with, but they're going to be dropping a lot of hybrid bluegill in a little bit later this summer. So they will be great fishing for the kids to come out and experience that, as well as live animals that, you know, that will be here. And it's really an incredible day. We have been involved with it, or Karen has been involved with it. Used to be down at the Coolmire farm, but you know, we'll have and it's put on by the Soil and Water Conservation and the USDA. So it'll be a great day, and it's fun to be part of that.
Well, and the Department of Conservation they have a lot of activities for kids. So are they going to supply the fishing poles? I know down
Yes,
in Southeast.
yes, they are.
use
They're gonna supply
Awesome.
the fishing poles and the dynamo. No, I'm kidding.
No.
And the old phones. I'm just, you know. No, it'll be a great day for them, and they do some of these, and they grow them bigger in their hatcheries, and so it'll be interesting to do that and just have a great day here. And they're going to do that, and it'll be throwing them all back. You know what I'm saying? So
Catch
the
and
grandkids can then, and our customers can fish on them for a long time. So it'll be great. There'll be a great day of activities, and we'll, I'm sure, talk about a lot more. So, hey, Dr. Hardy, it's always a pleasure to talk with you. I appreciate you coming out always, and I'm really, you know, you are integrating into this community extremely well, and we appreciate that, and we know it takes an awful lot of work to do that, but thanks for what you do.
Well, thank you for having me.
Appreciate it, and we will be talking with you again soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
Good for you to be along with us here this morning on KTUI 1560 AM, 94.1 FM, or Facebook Live, and we will be back next week, and good Lord willing. So have a great week, and enjoy the weekend. I'm looking out, and I see that there's some really nice blue areas in the sky, so that might be a good sign, and it is a good sign. So enjoy the weekend, and make your plans now to do something, and enjoy your family. We'll see you next week.
In for cancer prevention.
I'm in.
I'm in.
I'm in for cancer prevention.
The HPV vaccine can protect your child